2021, coming off the coattails of having COVID and being sick in January. So that's a little bit about me. Been sick in snowstorms in good old Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. Hello.
Hey.
Elise, me and my brother Jeremy, me and my friend Elise, and you're both biracial, so you have something in common, yay.
Oh, wow.
Derek Jeter.
That's immediately what you go to.
Well, I can see you both like women.
I thought we were trying to avoid that. This is like the only two black people at work, and they're like, oh, you guys should date.
They're like, hey, you're mixed, you have so much in common. I'm like, no, we don't.
You guys should bond over not fitting in anywhere.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh, so it's elementary school, high school, middle school, all over again? Awesome. Right.
Like an adult play date. About a couple of things that have also been in the news, because honestly, death has been a really big thing in this week. My aunt lost her husband to a heart attack last week. And then, of course, things happening with these unarmed young men being killed and so on and so forth. And last week, we lost two very popular figures. Rap star actor Earl Simmons, a.k.a. DMX, after a heart attack at 50, and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Prince consort, husband Elizabeth II, at age 99. They're both world popular and world famous. What do you think the legacies will be? First and foremost, when you heard the news, did you care? Were you bothered by it? What did it mean to you? Jeremy, since you're the guest, we'll start with you.
Well, to sound terrible and start off with this.
Oh, God.
X is no longer going to give it to you. So, I mean, that's unfortunate. No one wants anyone to go. It probably wasn't a good way for him to go, however he went. But no one wants that. And it's unfortunate.
Right.
But also, he, I guess life caught up with him. Like his life right before it caught up with him. It's like, okay, it's your time to go.
That's fair. Elise?
World famous. What do you think their legacies would be? I hope that DMX's legacy is remembered warmly. I hope that it inspires, young men and women who come from really rough backgrounds to seek, mental health, help, therapy and things like that. I hope that he's really remembered well and loved. I feel like community, people of color, the culture has celebrated him for the last week, and that's been really, really cool. I remember, years ago when that video came out of him, just gardening, having orchids in his house. He just randomly has a room full of orchids that nurturing and growing, and I thought that was really cool. As far as Prince Philip, I mean, Meghan Markle already told us about them, so I hope that he is remembered in this. I don't know, man.
See, I guess for me, when it comes to DMX, I find it interesting, because drugs and to Jeremy's point, play a part in his life, and ultimately, if you look about it, if he had a heart attack, probably his death. And I find it interesting, the shift that we've had in the past few years. 'Cause you remember when Whitney Houston died in 2012, and people were making fun of her being a crackhead, and Michael Jackson, Prince, so on and so forth, and there was this taboo, this stigma. He's like, oh God, they're crackheads. They got what's coming to them, and now the black community, and it's weird because honestly, up until I'd say a month or two ago, DMX was still had that label on him. He's a crackhead, he's a drug addict, he's this, he's that. You know what I mean? And
you think?
Huh?
You think so?
I think a lot of people do. I think because honestly, I feel like a lot of people in our community have been judgmental. And
really?
Yes. And now that he's gone, or after his heart attack, whatever, people coming out of the woodwork is like, oh my God, he was fabulous and he was great. I'm like, but where was that energy when he was alive? Kind of like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Because, well, I guess it's different, too, because of DMX, as silly as it sounds, he's a rough rider. He's DMX. So that's just kind of how you see him. But you hear, Whitney Houston, it's like, oh, she did crack all of the time, and you're just so surprised and flabbergasted by it. You don't know what to make of it.
Right.
So you just go for the first thing that's right there.
Right. But like I think about for me is like going back to Michael Jackson's example because I remember when he passed away because it was crazy because like the day before he died I was like this Michael Jackson bender and so I was watching his YouTube videos, maybe 10 million views here and there whatever because I went like the whole fucking playlist whatever. The next day I went back hundreds of millions of views and people that weren't even on the comments before talking about oh he was such a great artist he was this he was that. People in my own family were like oh before he passed away, because I started listening to his music back again, like when I was teenager or whatever. He's like, oh, he's a pedophile. He's this and he's that. Then he died. Oh, he was innocent. I'm like, well, where was that energy when he was alive? And like we push these people off to the side. In this case, DMX, what have you. We admire their talent and their genius and their musical acumen, but when they talk about their personal lives, whatever, it's with such contempt, and it's like, okay, well, where's it going to be really? You know what I mean? And I think with DMX in particular, it's like, look, with DMX in particular, I feel like his music has transcended his personal life, or at least it should, because I feel like with an artist, the art should speak for itself. And I'm hoping that's going to be the case for him. Like, the art should speak for itself. The work should speak for itself. Whatever he did in his personal life, whatever, as long as he didn't hurt anybody, that's his business.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because I feel like I've had the opposite experience where, yes, Michael Jackson and his music is loved and everything, but me and the people that I have surrounded myself are like, pretty sure that he was guilty. Like, and there's conflict with that. As to where DMX, growing up, I knew of who he was. I know his music like that, but he's part of the culture. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you can't escape knowing who he is. But I had only ever heard positive things about him.
Right. I think for me, when it comes to going back to this for a second, because I'm going back to Michael Jackson for that example, like, it's all, I feel like, there's like this pitting things. I remember when Michael Jackson died, Farrah Fawcett died the same day, and there was like this domination of news for Michael Jackson, vice versa, whatever. And when DMX or Prince Philip died, whatever, people were pitting them against each other, like, oh, well, one's legacy of this, one has legacy of that. And to your point, at least, when you're talking about what Meghan Markle said about the family, she's actually, her and Harry both confirmed that the stuff that was like the negative things that were being said about them, whatever, wasn't from the prince himself. And a lot of people took what she said and they ran with it. And I'm like, you're conflating apples and oranges. And like I've explained to people before, like there's a whole legacy of the prince consort who pretty much give up everything for his wife, which a lot of men in the 40s definitely did not do, that people don't pay attention to. And so I feel like, with both of them, they did a lot of good. And it's just like, I feel like, but they're going to be overshadowed somehow based on the perception of what they are without actually getting the full picture of the person themselves. Because again, Whitney Houston, when she died, oh, she's a crackhead. She ruined her talent. She ruined her voice. You know what I mean? Michael Jackson, he's a pedophile who's a drug addict. Prince, he ruined his whatever the fuck because he died the way he died. Rick James, same thing. And
yeah,
so,
I mean, but that's always gonna, like, all of the big figures of history. We're never gonna know the full story of them,
right,
unless they're detailing it in journals. Which low-key we might find out in so many years that there are journals hidden away of these people from these people.
Actually, which brings us to another question for all of you. I'll start with you, Jeremy. In this case, do we artists are out there and celebrities all so forth? Is their life really any of our business? Like, do you think that we should kind of like back off their personal lives and let their art or whatever they're doing speak for itself stand alone? What do you think?
I think that if you know them, like if I'm like, oh, I love DMX,
right,
and then there I am at Kroger getting some groceries, and I bump into him, and we become buds, then it's like I don't have a say, but it's like, oh, I can make a comment on him personally.
Right.
Other than that, I can't make a comment on him, or I shouldn't, because that's his life. But as an artist or musician, his numbers speak for themselves.
Right. What about you, Elise?
I think that everyone should just be much more chill about it. I think that it's up to them to put out, let us know what they want us to know about them.
Right.
I feel like but we shouldn't be trying to pry either. You know what I mean? Like, that was the whole issue, paparazzi and Britney Spears and all that. Like, people are really trying to get into their everyday life. Like, I think you privacy. We just like us, I think it should be similar to the way that we regular people operate online. Like, we only give people what we want them to know.
Right.
You know? And I think that I think I agree with Jeremy. Like, I have no right to comment on anyone else's life unless they're like, it's a hate betrayal to humanity, or, you know, just like a human. Like, as long as they're not hurting people, I have no right to comment on their life.
Right. And I feel like Brittany.
Sorry, I was having some connection issues before, but when it comes to both of their deaths, I will be the first one to say I didn't hit me for either one very hard because I don't know them.
Right.
So to answer your next question, what their legacy is and whatnot, I can't talk to it because I don't personally know them. I don't know much about nothing about what they did in their real life other than what the media wanted me to know. So quite frankly, I don't feel like I have too much to say on either one of them.
Right.
Just because I feel like the Prince Philip, like American media is not going to tell us too much of anything.
Right.
So what we know about him is damn near zero.
Right.
Other than he got sick and his husband, you know, the prince's father or you know, grandfather and things like that, depending on who you talk about. And with DMX, like, I listen to his music, but I don't think I've heard a DMX record in a good 10, 15 years, to be completely honest. So,
yeah, exactly. I don't think I've heard anything from DMX since the Touch It remix.
But not too much.
Right. I guess for me, like, especially going back to the Prince Philip things, I'm glad you touched on that about Americans. I had that conversation with somebody. They're like, well, what did he do? I'm like, well, the thing of it is, like, I hate to say this, but Americans, they lack awareness globally in such an astonishing fashion. I just cannot believe. I'm like, you know, just because they aren't big in your country does not mean they're not big in the world. You know what I mean? And it's almost like we live in that microcosm where it's like, oh, well, if it doesn't happen in my little bubble, it doesn't exist. And for me, you know, it's like I've been explaining to people all the time, like, well, you know, this is what he did, this is what he done, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, well, yeah, if you did your homework, you would know that. Like, and the same thing goes with DMX. A lot of people didn't, you know, the Orchid story, for instance, most people didn't know that. You know, people just see him as, you know, that, and that's it. And it's like, no, there's more to it than that if you allow them to show that to you. And it's like, you know, I feel like we, the public, play a part in celebrities, like DMX's case, whatever. But we play a part in their destruction because we sit there and pedestal up and we gas them up, whatever. And then as soon as they make a mistake, we just go to town on them and we drag them. And that's a lot to deal with. You have millions of people in the world or wherever you are sitting there going in on you on a regular basis, whatever, commenting on you and your life, whatever. Even if the mistake was private, that somebody made public, you're now for public consumption. That's stressful. So do we have anything more to add on this one?
I do.
Okay.
On Prince Philip, when researching him, what really stuck out to me, and I guess makes an impact, I guess, now, and just something for me to think about going forward, is that he created a program for, we'll say, like, young men.
Right.
You know, to better themselves. And, you know, whether it be, you know, Prince Philip or any kind of celebrity, when was, like, you know, what's the last celebrity you heard talk about doing something like that or initiating something like that?
Right. See, I think with him, like I said before, like his legacy, like people like they like to downplay it because again he is the queen's husband. But I'm like, there's a lot that he did in that position. Like honestly, was it for the prince, I doubt that the monarchy would have stood the way it stood because he helped modernize it, which is a huge thing. It may not be huge to Americans because that's not our thing. But in Britain, like the queen has said, that's been my strength and stay for at that time 50 years. And he's one that introduced the public to the royal family with documentaries and things of that nature, what have you, which made them more accessible. We wouldn't have Meghan Markle and Harry, his nickname, spilling the tea. It wasn't for Prince Philip making it easier for them to be accessible to the people.
Did they not? They stripped the security. They did all these types of things that did not protect them, and they're supposed to be the heads of the entire. But
that's where people get it wrong. the queen, yeah, she's theoretically, the head of state, whatever, but she also works for, as we put out, the firm. And there are people, she has ceremonial duties, whatever, but people handle other things on the business end. And so not everything that goes on is because the queen wills it so or the prince wills it so, things like that. It's a bureaucracy. And just like
but then doesn't that just make them guilty by association? Like, you if you have the power to bring light to this and speak against it, you guys are the face of the organization.
Right.
You have the ability to call that shit out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you're not doing that.
But
that
here's the
makes
thing.
You guilty of.
And I would agree with that to a certain extent, but here's the thing. You're thinking about, again, Prince Philip was born 1921. Back in the days when he was coming, when the queen was coming, she's 95 now. The way you did things was duty first, personal feelings second. And so when you get to the age that they're at, even when we get to the age when they were when Princess Diana was a thing, they're almost in their 70s. They were raised a certain way that you put duty and faith in the establishment first above your own personal feelings. Yeah. And even when Prince Charles divorced Diana, the Queen personally wanted the Prince to give Diana her, the styling, Her Royal Highness, but they took it away from her anyway. Yeah. And so it's sometimes not down to her or even him to sit there and make these decisions because, again, there's a lot more people in play than just those two people.
I mean, to be really honest and candid, though, I'm not going to give I'm not going to defend or give props or roses to any word born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I don't care what, unless he absolutely made efforts to fight for social justice and, race, equity and educate, if those things, unless he was really out here doing the work like that, I'm just not going to give him anything.
I'm glad you brought that up, because honestly, Prince Philip, he was born in privilege, but he lost his privilege young. He was born in Greece. He was the Prince of Greece. His family got overthrown. And so he got to bounce from country to country. His mom was put in a sanitarium, all this other stuff. His father, was out of his life, so on and so forth, whatever. So pretty much he made himself. He joined the Air Force. He made himself. When we got with his cousin, the Queen was his cousin. When he got with her, whatever, and they got married, he gave up everything to be her husband. His Royal Air Force, his Greek titles that he could claim to, everything. He gave up everything.
Is this covered in the show, The Crown?
I don't know. I haven't seen The Crown. I won't watch The Crown because it's
I'm trying to figure out how you know.
I Googled it. It's on Wiki. I wikied it. I researched it too.
Elise,
yeah,
I can't believe you just said that.
I researched before, but I did not care to research anything about Prince. I'm telling you, just white people.
Right. Well, my thing is like this, because honestly, this is what I do. Again, I love history. I love the House of Windsor. So I've watched documentaries upon documentaries from Queen Victoria on down on that family. And so for me, it's I'm especially since I knew at some point he was going to die, I wanted to do my homework on these people, whatever. And so for me, it's no, he had a very fascinating story, and it was not easy for him. Elizabeth, yes, it was easy for her, but for him, it was not easy. And go ahead.
At the end of the day, he's still a white man. It was going to be some level of easy for him.
But you can say that for anybody that has any kind of money. Doesn't mean that their struggle is not a struggle.
You can't say that for everyone that has money, though. I mean, Eddie Murphy, or was it Eddie Murphy? Someone said it. They had to struggle through decades to get to the neighborhoods where they're owning $1 million houses while their neighbors are dentists, white dentists.
That was Chris Rock.
Huh?
That was Chris Rock.
Live in a place called Alpine, New Jersey. Live in Alpine, New Jersey, right? My house cost millions of dollars. Don't hate the player, hate the game. In my neighborhood, there are 4 black people. Hundreds of houses, 4 black people. Who are these black people? Well, it's me, Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z, and Eddie Murphy. Only black people in the whole neighborhood. So let's break it down. Let's break it down. Me, I'm a decent comedian. I'm all right. Mary J. Blige, one of the greatest R&B singers to ever walk the earth. Jay-Z, one of the greatest rappers to ever live. Eddie Murphy, one of the funniest actors to ever do it. Do you know what the white man that lives next door to me does for a living? He's a fucking dentist. He ain't ain't the best dentist in the world. He ain't going to the Dental Hall of Fame. He don't get plaques for getting rid of plaque. He's just a yank your tooth out dentist. See, the black man gotta fly to get something that the white man could walk to.
Chris Rock.
Yeah,
right?
because he's like, I have to fly what a white man can walk to. But yeah, like for me, it's like, it's just one of those things where like he has used his platform, in my opinion, very, very effectively. And again, this is somebody who did 22,000 engagements for goodwill for the sake of his country over 70 some odd years. So I can't sit there. He said some inflammatory things, but I can't sit there and say he didn't use his platform properly. He didn't do good with his platform.
Yeah. All right.
We have another case over the weekend of a cop killing an unarmed black man. In this case, it was 20-year-old father of one, Daunte Wright, who was pulled over because of an air freshener in his car. And the cop who killed him, who has since resigned, thought he was reaching for his taser, and he reached for his gun and shot the kid. What are your thoughts on this? We'll start with you, Elise. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Okay, back to you, Jeremy.
Oh, I didn't speaking at all. I don't know who was speaking.
No, I said we'll start with you, Elise.
Oh, you were asking me?
Yeah, so I'll start with you, yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear my name said. I mean, what is there to say? They're blatantly killing us. Like, there's no reason that cops are trained to, like, they should be trained to de-arm and de-escalate in situations. But there was nothing really to de-escalate. He pulled him over for an air freshener. Like, there was no reason anything that happened, period.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what there is to say about this. Like,
I don't know what to say. Honestly, like, to me, it's just like when I first heard the story, I'm gonna keep it real. Like, I'm gonna keep it all the way 100 for a second. Like, when I first got wind of what's happening, whatever. First, I'm like, okay, somebody died, whatever, cool. I really don't care. It's not so much that I don't care, but I didn't want to hear it anymore.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, great. Then I was on somebody's Instagram story, whatever. I was reading what happened, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you become, in a sense, desensitized, and then when you get invested, you get pissed off all over again, which is why you want to be desensitized in the first place.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was talking to a friend earlier. We were messaging back and forth. She was just like, I've been really sad today. And I was like, what do we do? What do we do in these situations? Because I felt myself about to go there and get mad, and I was like, I have the capacity for it. So I just turned everything off. And she was saying that sometimes she'll just go on a rant, like tweeting about how terrible like the system is and how white people can be, and all of this stuff. And I'm like, well, what if we just got like put together a pre-written letter and just plugged in new names and new like organization to it and sent them every time like some of this shit happens? And she was like we should just start sending them invoices.
That's a great idea. That is a fantastic idea.
I was like, absolutely. You know what we should do? We should put together like a template that's free to download and send it out to people of color, and they can just send it off to whatever businesses or whatever white people they feel haven't done enough for people of color.
I have to ask this question. It's like when it comes to white people and doing enough, because I think me and Michael Young had talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, what is it that we want them to do that's not going to feel almost performative, if that makes sense? You know what I mean? Because, there are some well-meaning Caucasians out there who are down for the cause, legitimately. Like my stepsister Kendra, she's down for the cause. But when it comes to a lot of them, though, I'm not sure I actually believe that they actually care. I think they're just, it's the hot topic. You know what I mean? So what is it that we're looking for from them to give to us, if in that sense, to be an ally, as it were?
To give to us, technically, like, I'm not necessarily looking for them to, like, send me money. Because I don't know. I feel like it does no harm, but also that's not necessarily doing anything to fight, racism or anything itself. I think what they should be doing actually is just educating themselves and speaking up. Like, you have to be a voice, even if that's performative, as long as nobody else knows that it's performative except for you. Okay, like, you should be calling out and embarrassing other white people for their bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
At the very least, like, it shouldn't be up to us to continually have to point out, like, the microaggressions of racist stuff that exists. Like, they should be calling each other out and holding each other
accountable. But, like, I actually find it interesting because I was actually looking at, NPR when all this stuff happened, there are all these people who kill these people, whatever, maybe 2-3% of these cops who murder these civilians get a charge and get arrested and you actually are convicted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for me, it becomes one of those things where it's, okay, well, we know for sure no matter what's going to happen, the cop's going to get off.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do about it? Then I was diving into articles some more, and I'm like, well, how do these people get here? Because I remember there's one story in particular, one guy, he had a history of, like, I think he assaulted somebody or sexually assaulted somebody, whatever. Something wasn't quite right in his record. One city rejected him. He went to another city a few miles away, whatever. They accepted him because they needed the bodies. And lo and behold, he ended up killing somebody.
Wow.
And they're like, well, we needed the bodies. There was another cop. He shot, I think, 5 people in like a 20-year career, 3 of which were off duty and 3 of which he was actually drunk at. And he kept his job. He retired with pension.
Wait. Did you say he was drunk at?
Oh, he was off duty. He was drunk at a few of them. That we know for sure. We know he's drunk off duty. We're not sure if he's drunk on duty or not. Well, when he's shooting them, because he's coming to work drunk. But we're not sure if he actually shot anybody while he was drunk.
Oh, wait, hold on. You said he shot people while he was off duty drunk.
Yes.
I don't see where there's any, like, exception.
I agree. I don't make the news, I just report it. And, he stayed on the force for 24 years, retired with pension.
Oh, my God. Throw a whole system away.
So, Jeremy, what do you think?
Well, I have a couple of things to say on it. From speaking to someone earlier before I left work, is that the way that I guess the situation was explained is that one officer was being trained. The officer that shot Daunte was the trainer, training the rookie officer. And the way it even seems, and it seems absolutely asinine, is that supposedly, we'll just say he was getting back to sit down in his car, right? Not like sprinting, going faster, but Daunte was going back to sit back in his car. Rookie grabbed his arm, right?
Right.
Daunte, we'll just say resisted. And then the rookie started yelling, taser, 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 right?
Right.
They carry a sidearm, we'll just say on their right, taser on their left. Human error and just ridiculousness went immediately for a sidearm, shot Daunte. Absolutely. Person should not have had time to resign. Person should have been charged, filed. It's like, oh, you killed somebody. You're done. Life is over. You're done. The rookie, he probably should no longer be an officer. So, like, that's not right in so many ways. Like, even just if that's how it happened. Like, even if it didn't happen that way,
right.
But it's like, if someone says, like, taser yells taser, and it's an officer, that would mean that you have that time to assess, think, do what you're supposed to do. Even if it's a reflex, you reach for the sidearm and not the taser side, still, that's still holstered sidearm. You drew. There was 2 of you. You basically had them like halfway restrained. That's on you. You're done.
Yeah.
Should not have happened.
I agree. I actually found what I was looking for. So it says, of officers involved in deadly shootings of unarmed black people over the past 5 years, 13 were charged with murder, 2 were found guilty. 3 others charged with murder were acquitted, and 1 was found not guilty of murder but guilty of aggravated assault, false statements in violation of his oath of office. 7 murder cases are pending. Of the 7 officers charged with manslaughter, 2 were found guilty. In 33 shootings, officers were fired or resigned. At least 3 got their jobs back, and 5 went on to work for another law enforcement agency, records show. And because I remember, like, back in the day, I remember this coworker I used to have, his name was Paul, and we worked at Disney together, where, you know, somebody got, you know, it's hard to keep track of who got shot by the cops and how. I mean, you know what I mean? The one that got shot in the chest on video, in that video. And, you know, he was laying there, what have you. And I remember, like, he's like, you just have to just do what they tell you to do. And I'm like, in a rational world, that makes sense. However, when you see these things on social media, you see these things, you know, everywhere, permeated everywhere, especially somebody of color or whatever. Being rational is not going to be my first instinct when I see a cop. I get viscerally afraid of police officers when I see them in a car behind me. When I used to drive my car. Like I said before, which I don't like driving. My biggest fear in life is getting pulled over by a cop and shot. And so this idea that, oh, you just do what they tell you to. I'm like, a lot of these people had did what they were told, whatever, and they still wound up dead. Like an air freshener. Like, is this kid's life really worth it? Worth an air freshener? Like, and I get it. His license was suspended. He should have been driving, whatever. And that's neither here nor there. But an air freshener. You got pulled over not because your license was suspended, but it's because you were driving with a car with an air freshener in it.
Do you realize that white people get to live in a way that a lot of them aren't afraid of anything? Like, they're not afraid of other people. They're not afraid of what can happen to them. They make up dangerous sports because life isn't scary enough. Like, but, you know, black people specifically, you know, black men, you guys carry fear. Like, you are afraid that you look suspicious when you drive, and you can't help it just because you're dark, you're black. Like, I don't know. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of...
Right. To me, it's just offensive, especially, you know, because I remember I actually had a boss, and her name was Jamie. She worked at Disney, whatever, and she made a comment. You know, she saw how hard it was to be a woman, and then she turned around and said to me, she's like, you know, but I wouldn't switch spots with you because I know how much harder it is for you, and I was like, it made me uncomfortable, but she wasn't lying, like, in that sense, you know, because honestly, like, you know, white women, they have it hard, but they don't have it hard as any minority, male or female, ethnically. And for me, it's like one of those things where I think the thing that galls me the most are the minorities who sit there and say, why support the police? I'm like, honestly, support the police. I think they're there to protect and serve, and that there are a lot of cops there are a lot of quote-unquote good cops. That narrative bothers me. At the same time, it does not mean that the bad cops shouldn't be taken to task for what they've done wrong. Like, you can support Black Lives Matter and still be able to support the police who are actually doing their jobs.
I think that I am on the side of, like, defund the police, but not in the extreme sense of it, more so in the sense of, well, they don't need added budgets. They need some of the budget to be redistributed is what it needs to happen. It needs to go into mental health resources.
Right.
They be retrained. They need to be trained specifically to handle people with mental health and de-escalation. They need more than 3 months training or whatever. What is it here? The cops are not trained for very long, like,
at all,
before they get to, like, just be out. You know what I mean? But I think that, like, one of the countries in Europe, I can't remember which one it is, their police program is 2 years before you get to be an official cop.
Like, honestly, that's one thing, again, going back to, you know, foreign countries, socialized countries, the way they handle business, so much better than how we handle business here.
Much better.
So much better. We don't ever really, well, of course these things happen, but we don't hear about mass shootings as much. We don't hear about police brutality as much. Granted, people are like, oh, well, there's no racism because it's homogenous. So, like, that's maybe the case, whatever. But a lot of things that people here live in fear of, they don't live in those fear over. They don't have that fear over there, because they're people being taken care of the way they should be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And it bothers me. But to your point, at least, I have to make sure I make this myself very, very clear. I'm very, very for defund the police. Honestly, 'cause I did a video about that, whatever. And I actually got mad at Obama for saying he didn't like the slogan because it wasn't neutral enough to get the people on your side. And when people say defund the police, we're not saying take money out of the budget. We're saying, again, to your point, reallocate it to different resources. A lot of these things that cops are they're dealing with right now, a social worker can deal with it.
Absolutely.
There's no reason why, like 28% of a lot of the deaths, 20% of the deaths that are taking place at police hands are people who are mentally ill. If these people had the resources to put this to the right person, these people would still be alive. Like that story 4 or 5 years ago, this guy, he was mentally ill. He called for help. They suffocated him on the ground. He died on the floor begging for his life, and he called them for help. No excuse for that.
No. None.
Like I'm finding my heart racing. It irritates me. It just irritates me. Then you have the people say, well, they kill white people too. Yes, they do. But honestly, as far as I'm concerned, whether they kill somebody who's black, white, or candy apple red, killing somebody who is unarmed when they have not done anything worth them dying over is wrong. I don't care what color you are.
Yeah. Even if they were guilty, it's wrong.
Right. Because like, that's what somebody said to me when George Floyd died. And I'm so glad his killers actually been put on trial. But I remember somebody said, they cited Candace Owens. That fucking bedwench. But we all know I hate her. But they cited Candace Owens as, the reason why, George Floyd's not a hero. And I'm like, nobody ever pretended that he was a hero. In a sense, he was a martyr, but he wasn't a hero. And they're like, well, Candace Owens said this, whatever. And he's like, well, it's like the cops were out talking about, I'm gonna get one, and he had a criminal past. I'm like, yeah, a lot of people have criminal pasts. It doesn't mean I deserve to die in that instance because of my criminal past. Like the saying goes, every saint has a past, every sinner has a future.
Because let's also dig into that for a minute as far as criminals. Like, people of color are forced into situations, low-key, where, like, crime is just what they have to do, whether it's ill to put food on the table or, like, sometimes the crimes aren't necessary. Like, you don't need an iPod, you know what I mean?
Right.
But sometimes, like, you haven't eaten in a couple of days. Your kids have to eat. And so you have to figure out how to do it. You might have to sell drugs. You might have to sell your body. You might have to, like, there's a lot of things that they're forced into these situations because, we're not given the resources when we're growing up. I mean, look at the high school we went to versus the schools in Chandler, Gilbert. You know what I mean? Like, we're not provided the same resources, the same conveniences. Like, you sit here and you want to complain like we shouldn't be defending criminals, but you should be providing the resources. You don't have to like turn to crime.
Right. Actually, one thing I want to get Jeremy back, and I was want to because I remember I was watching a Whoopi Goldberg special. It's called Fontaine, Why Am I Straight? And this is in the 80s when the Just Say No thing was kicking in. And they're like, just say no to drugs, just say no to dealing drugs, whatever. And Whoopi Goldberg, she broke it down. She's like, look, a lot of these people have no money. They're not making any money. They now have economic mobility to do so by dealing drugs. Why would I stop dealing drugs where I'm making money to take care of my family just because you tell me not, just because you say just say no?
She's a woman living in an unreal world. Explain to me how you tell an urban teenager who lives in the street, in the school systems of the real world, just say fucking no. Explain it to me. How do you justify that to a mother who's maybe got 6 kids and $365 a month from welfare, and one of her kids is bringing 15 grand a week? Oh, just say no. Fuck you.
I can take care of myself and I can take care of my family now. Why the fuck would I change up the routine for you now?
Right.
And that's what I feel like. A lot of people, like a lot of these people that are, criminals, if you want to call them whatever, they're mostly drug charges. They're not hurting anybody. They're not killing anybody. They're not raping anybody. Like George Floyd had George Floyd had a counterfeit bill. Is a counterfeit $20 bill really worth somebody being killed slowly over the course of 9 minutes?
I don't think so, Michael.
I don't think so either. No rational person should think that. And I remember one of my friends, well, she's not a friend anymore, was like, well, because our husband, was domestically violent, whatever. She's like, when I get scared, when I get whatever, I call the cops. There are good cops out there. I'm like, yes, there are good cops out there, but the bad ones need to be held accountable. Period. Full stop, point blank. There's no other way around that. You can support the cops. I have no problem with that. But you need to hold the bad ones accountable instead of trying to make a broad, sweeping statement about how good the cops are, whatever. Because on January 6th, there were a lot of good cops out there, and they got their asses beat and killed, whatever. And y'all weren't saying shit about that.
Absolutely. And you know what? You guys, the justice system has never failed to hold people of color accountable for, like, the gram of weed in their pocket. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you're not going to hold accountable these white officers that are killing these people over air fresheners and fake $20 bills. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not balanced. There's no justice here.
Right. Jeremy, so we've just pretty much have unloaded quite a bit this past couple minutes. Do you have anything to say to this?
I want to say I do, but I don't. Like, I agree that there should be huge checks and huge balances,
right,
especially in our justice system, and not just. And I don't want to say just people of color as what we're talking about now, but I'm talking about huge ones, like people.
Right.
And we'll say for a moment, like, the parent that's doing what they're supposed to be doing and get railroaded in the court system.
Right.
So then they're having to go and sell their body or go and sell those drugs, to take care of that. Or it's like, oh, someone was asking for help. Oh, he's a person of color. He's probably causing the trouble. Let's get him. No, all of you involved, guess what? Your lives are done. You're out. Lives done. Out.
Right. It's crazy. Like, because go back to your point about, people having to do things for their kids, what have you. Remember that story? I don't know if you remember this or not. A few years ago, like, this black lady, her son was, she was homeless, I think, and she gave a false address for her son so he can go to school. Sentenced to 6 years in prison, if I remember correctly. Meanwhile,
that was just like last year, I think.
Yeah, this is a few years ago. Like,
I would say that happens a lot.
Right. Like,
that happens a lot.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when, but then you go back to looking at Aunt Becky from Full House.
Yeah.
Who broke the law in more ways than one, who essentially bribed her daughter's way through, and I'm sorry, that little bitch deserves to go to jail too, bribed her daughter's way into college, whatever, gets 2 months, and she can go back to work. This woman's life is ruined. This black woman's life is ruined. She was homeless and wanted to make it something better for her child, whatever. Her life is ruined. And Becky with the good hair over there, 2 months tops, she's done. Her husband gets 5 months, she's done. And then you have, the other, what's the other girl, Nicolette Sheridan or Felicity Huffman, whatever. Her stupid ass husband's home. She's trying to be a good mom. I'm like, you have access to all the resources in the world. You are taking resources and opportunities from people who desperately need them. Why? Because you want to make shit look good for your child. Not that they aren't good, but like they did not need you to cheat. They were exceptional on their own. They should get in their own merits. Meanwhile, a woman actually tries to make sure that her child does well, whatever. She's now in prison. Makes no sense.
Doesn't make sense.
At all.
People flee here because it's the land of opportunity, but it's not the land of opportunity for everyone.
Right. And that's why people get mad when I say I'm a socialist. That's what I'm like. That's what I mean. And people like, oh, you want my stuff? I'm like, I don't want your shit. I want the opportunity to have the same shit that you have, and I want the resources to be able to get the same shit that you have.
Yeah. I was recently in New Orleans, and I was driving around with my friend, and she's pointing out like all of these beautiful houses on these big like acre properties things. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And she goes, yep, that plantation money been sustaining these families for years, the slave money. Like, and then it hit me. All of these people had ancestors that owned slaves that were forced to sell. When slavery was abolished, but they got paid off a pretty ass penny.
Right.
And we got nothing.
So, for those of us in South Phoenix and who went to South Mountain High School, every so often we are peppered with the news of a loss of one of our own from gun violence. On April 11th, Quentin Gamage was gunned down by a coworker. He was 30 and left behind his son. He was shot 3 times and then ran over twice. When you hear these kinds of stories, how do you react? What do you think people nowadays What do you think of people who nowadays go straight for the gun when there's conflict? Jeremy, we'll start with you.
I'm actually I guess the worst person to ask about it, because I'm like, oh, you shot this person 3 times and you ran over them twice. 2 snaps. Yeah, these guys in the black, they're going to take care of you. You're not seeing anything ever again. You're done. Life over. I'm going to turn you to glass. It's ridiculous. It's actually very upsetting. It is quite upsetting. And it doesn't matter like who the person is. If you need to shoot someone 3 times or run over them, first of all, who the fuck is this person? Is he some kind of Superman? Some kind of alien? No, he's a person. Why the hell are you doing that? Secondly, if you can't handle your business with your hands and you need to go to that, guess what? You should be in business. Close up shop. Out.
It was like, honestly, I remember I was looking at the AZ, because I was on the AZ Essential or whatever, and like, I remember the headline, it just said shooting. And I'm like, that part pissed me off. I'm like, this is a person. Family, friends, children, and shooting. That's it. Just some bold letters, shooting. I'm like, that's not cool. And I was reading the story, and I'll just throw it out, like, like, so apparently they were walking. They had an employee dispute. There's somebody with them. They had some kind of dispute, whatever. The kid, this boy was 18 years old. Shot him 3 times, backed over him, and ran him over again. He went to the hospital, and that's where he died. And for me, it's like, yeah, Quentin's now gone, but this kid's also theoretically now gone because they're charging him with first-degree murder and aggravated assault. He's not going anywhere. His life is effectively now over.
No, it is not. No, he needs to be killed.
You think so?
It's okay, let's say for a moment, we'll use it this way. Michael and I are having a disagreement, right? And he pulls the knife.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, you've got one of 2 choices right there. You better use that knife and hope that you kill me, because if not, I'm going to take that and I'm going to kill you. That's it. You reach for a weapon to kill somebody.
Right.
Any kind of weapon as it is. But to shoot the person and run over them, that's extra. That's bullshit. You need to die. You don't need to go to prison. You don't need solitary confinement. You don't need medical help. You need to die. That's it.
But what if he has just something that's off mentally? What if he had like some type of break, and he just
that could happen to anybody. That can happen to me right now. Like I stubbed my toe and I have this break and I light this fucking house on fire. But that's like almost like a crutch or an excuse. But for something like that, for a break,
if
you
that
can't
were,
use that.
do you think that you would deserve to go to, like, suddenly something overcame? What if he was like schizophrenic or something, or another personality took over? He does all this and then goes, oh shit.
Well, here's my.
Well, that's just trying to make it like that sounds like that's just trying to fish for something like a good part in him.
Well, if I may for a second.
The kid. Go ahead. My bad.
No worries. My issue is, like, honestly, let's just say that happened. Whatever. I understand, like, psychiatric breaks, obviously, since, I'm like, I have mine all the time. But my issue is he shot him 3 times, ran him over twice, and then drove away. Which, to me, is indicative of guilt. And indicative of the fact that you know what you're doing. Well, honestly, I get the feeling if you shoot somebody, you still know what you're doing. But you know what I mean? But you're in full control of your capacities. And so for me, it's like everyone knows I'm not for the death penalty. I don't believe in the death penalty. But in an instance like this, I'm like, maybe you might have to do what's coming to you, because again, like, it's a dispute. Like unless Quentin try to physically harm you lethally, I don't understand where it's okay for you to sit there, have a conversation while you're walking, pull out a gun at somebody, shoot them 3 times and back over them twice, and then drive away.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, it's like, again, this kid, whether he stays in prison for the rest of his life or not, his life is over. Because even if he gets out of prison, what's he going to be able to do in the world? He's a felon now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mean to sound like I'm defending him at all. I was just kind of, the whole the death thing kind of caught me by surprise. Because Michael in the whole, I don't think that I'm for the death penalty. I don't think that any human should have the right to call it a day on an human. You know what I mean? Not so permanently. I think that playing God, and we already do that enough in so many other aspects. We shouldn't be doing that with people. And that kid in that instance was also playing God, and that is the huge problem. And he should definitely go to prison. He should definitely be punished. But I don't agree with straight death.
Right. I guess for me, like, I get conflicted because honestly, like, again, to your point, I don't like playing God. I don't like the idea of snuffing out somebody's life. I do not. It's just not something that makes me feel good or something I like to think about.
Mm-hmm.
However, you took somebody else's life. And like I said to you before, I'm an atheist, but culturally I'm still a Christian. And those old ways die hard. An eye for an eye, so on and so forth.
Yeah, for sure. And
so for me, it's like you took somebody from, you took a parent from their child. You took cousin, friend, so on and so forth, whatever. Part of me is like, you should pay the ultimate price so you know what it's like now to you know what I mean, to experience that. But at the same time, you kill somebody, though, that's it. That's the game to your point. There's a finality to it. What are you gonna learn from it if you're not alive?
Exactly. It's too permanent for you to learn anything.
Yeah, but the thing, okay, because I've been thinking about this as my day went on. It can't be done or said to be like, well, like the person's talking to at work about it, put him in solitary confinement. No, you don't deserve that. You went out of your way to kill somebody. It'd be different if you shot him once and then took off.
Right.
Like whether it killed him or not and took off.
Right.
We'll say maybe a little bit of self-defense, a little bit of rage. Shot him twice. 3 times? But then you went and got a fucking car? Come on now. No. Like, that's not right. That's not playing God. That's not right. You want to dish out the permanent and final checkout? Guess what? That's what you get in return.
How would you
reap what you sow.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
How would you feel about I'm wondering if there's anything like in the middle that would make you feel better about a punishment, like instead of just prison where you're sitting around, people do different things in prison.
I'm sorry. I know where I was trying to go, but go ahead. I will go after you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking, like, what is there a punishment short of death that would be sufficient to you? Like some type of, what if we create? I mean, Earth already has enough hell, but like, what if they were tortured or sentenced to some crazy ass type of thing, or is there somewhere in the middle where you feel like, okay, maybe they don't have to be killed, but they should live out hell for the rest of their life?
Before I get into my rant about it, I would like to say there's a possibility, but in terms of something like this, at this moment, I would have to say that's a negative. That's a big old no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was just curious.
No, it's all good. But what I was meaning to get to and rant about and or say is that you kill somebody, whether it was like, Quentin or anything else, you get another life. And that's something that makes me very angry too. Like, that's what makes me really angry about it. Is because, yes, you go to prison, you're a felon, whether you get out or not, but you still have another life. Essentially, another chance. It's just a different life.
Right.
A different place.
Right.
He does not deserve that. People who do terrible things like that don't deserve that. At all. You go out of your way to kill somebody, guess what? Oh, you think you're going to go to prison and, I'm going to pay for you to be in prison with my tax dollars and I'm working hard? Oh, no, my friend. No.
But
lights out.
But Jeremy, we do that now with death row. People on death row for 20, 30 years because of the way the system has worked. So it's like, either way, we're going to pay for them.
But it's also, why are they there? Like, we can go back and forth all day about, like, why are they there? To make money. They're making money. That's what they're there for. They should not be there. As terrible as it sounds, yes, they're people. They have feelings. Some of them you know, they've repented. Some of them have not. But overall, if they killed somebody, what other way to do it, and they're there, they should be there. Just the same way as if I did it, I'm looking at if I did it, and I went out of my way to kill somebody. We'll just say out of the blue, I went out of my way to kill somebody. Mm-hmm. I should be taken off the planet. That's it.
Actually, upon reflection here, I see both of your points. It's just, I guess for me, because I hate to say this, I would have to be in that situation. You know what I mean? If I were on a court, jury duty, God forbid, and something like this would happen, I don't think I would know until that moment how I would feel about sentencing an 18-year-old kid to death. Because that's my thing. If he was 30, hell, if he was 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, I would be like, yes, kill him. But he's an 18-year-old kid. And that's what I'm struggling with in that aspect. And again, my whole situation is I don't believe in the death penalty except in extreme situations. If he were a little bit older, I'd say go for it. You know what I mean?
What's the curious thing to me is we just had this whole conversation about, police brutality, police murdering, black bodies, people of color. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember anyone saying those police officers should be sentenced to death. Did you say that, Jeremy?
Yeah, and not that way, but it's that's what I'm saying. Your life is over. You shot and killed someone, whether it's a human, if it's an absolute human error, you do get a punishment. You get the near max punishment. If you go off and just kill somebody, a cop just kills some kid or some guy, some mom, no, you're done. Life is over for you.
So context matters.
Okay, so you believe that also of the police officers who killed George Floyd, they went out of their way. There's plenty of police officers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they're done. They're round them up, get them off the planet permanently.
Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was
a distinction.
Same energy consistently.
Oh no, Jeremy's consistent.
That aspect of it earlier.
That's my brother
Yeah,
for
no,
you.
it's fine.
But
I'm about just taking people off the planet, starting over.
But I would have to agree though. I do feel these cops who kill people, and it's one thing to shoot somebody in the moment, whatever. You're fearful of your life, whatever. You deserve to go to jail at least for manslaughter. But if you do what Chauvin did to George Floyd, yeah, you deserve death.
It's hard to reckon with the loss of life in any situation, but I think and Jeremy, I don't know where you're from or where you went to school or anything. But it feels particularly hard when it's in your community, and it's someone who, even I said earlier during our break, I didn't know him personally. I'm sure that I must have eyed him at some point, but I went to school. He was a couple years over me though. I hope that there's justice in this situation, something that his family feels some kind of semblance of peace with for the outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm very much for that. I want, if someone is wrong, I don't want to say whatever it takes for the family or the people grieving for whatever action, but it's also I do hope they get that peace. They get that closure. They get to be able to pick up the pieces and move on in their time.
Yeah, no. Yeah, right. I don't know. I can't say, I can sit here and be yes, I am totally opposed to the death penalty, but at the end of the day, I'm not the one who's ruling the universe. I don't know what it should be.
Right.
There are some hard rights that we know, and there are some hard wrongs. We shouldn't kill people. That's a hard, as an individual, you should never kill another person.
Right.
But we violate those rules all the time. We violate those rights and wrongs. And it's okay, well, how do we reckon with the people who have violated these rules that we all agreed to? Kind of, just by being born, we're expected to uphold a certain, it's just the way that we live.
Right.
Yeah.
Because honestly, because it makes me ask this question. Because we talk about killing, so on and so forth. So does the killing matter? Because say for instance, people go to war, we kill people, civilians, so on and so forth all the time. Does that change anything?
Change anything as far as what?
Like how we look at the death. This one, we should kill them. They should do this, that, and third, whatever. Does that change anything based on the context in which the killing is taking place?
For me, no. I feel like, if I'm understanding the question correctly, I think that maybe I'm not. You know what? I need you to ask that again, because I'm not sure that.
So, for instance, like people like combat veterans, for instance, part of the job description that sometimes, depending if you're doing this during conflict, you're probably going to kill somebody, and a lot of people in combat, they kill civilians.
Gotcha.
Does that change the tenor of how you feel about punishments matching crimes in that respect?
I think in this situation, I agree with Jeremy up to a certain extent. Like, if it was an accident, it was a human error type of thing. I mean, because people get killed by friendly fire, too, all the time.
Right.
I think there has to be a level of grace for them because, they were doing their job. But also, like, why are we killing people and waging war in 2021? Like, I just feel like there's not a reason to, when we have all of you have resources to get things sorted out. You have communication. Like, we have so many ways of handling things. And maybe this is just me being too simple-minded. But I just don't think that there's a reason for it to be happening in the first place.
I agree. So yeah, like this.
I can agree to that.
Yeah, this situation story is just sad all the way around, and I think what bothers me the most is like he's now no longer a person. He's just now another statistic to a lot of people.
Yeah.
He's somebody who's a walking, breathing, talking. Because again, like when we went to South together, I think he was a year ahead of me. Very pleasant. We say what's up, whatever, here and there, whatever, and that was it. I don't know many people from my years at South who had a crossword with him. And now he's gone. And now instead of, celebrating the person that he was, a lot of people just want to see a name and a photo, gun violence. A name and a photo, shooting. You know what I mean? And he's no longer real to the millions of people who potentially would see that.
Yeah.
Well, why is that?
Why is what?
No, why is that? Why is he just a number, so to speak? I'm asking, because of it bothers me because it applies to a bunch of other things. But why is that overall?
That I don't know, because people when they do these stories, where they usually compile stats, like we lost X amount of people to X amount to thing X. And when I went to go look up the story, because at first when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I was actually at work. I was stunned. I could not believe it. So I went to work and decided I was just going to Google and see what happened, whatever. And I typed in his name. And one of the first things that came up was his name, his age, and it said something about, gun violence deaths. That was one of the first things that popped up. And so now he's going to, like, the way I see it, most people are going to, the heading is going to be, let me see if I can find it. It's going to be, oh, well, he's just another person who got killed, who was killed. You know what I mean? Instead of he's actually a person. That's just what I'm seeing based on.
Well, it's convenient. It's just like you said, you don't like his convenience. Like overall, it's convenient to say it's like, well, the cop shot somebody because they saw him reaching for something. Well, it's either you have the whole story, you don't want to tell it, or it's not. Either way, it's like, well, we're just gonna say the cop shot somebody. This is the reason. Convenient. Move on. Oh, this gentleman was killed by a kid. It's convenient just to say murder, shooting. Move on. It's too convenient. There's a lot of stuff that's just too convenient. Yeah. And it's whether it's people getting off, whether it's people, whether it's like a headline about something that just happened to someone you may know. It's just all too convenient and too easy.
Yeah.
All right. It's like, I found the site. So it's called gunmemorial.org. Quinta Gamage, age 30, National Gun Violence Memorial. It says lost to gun violence on April 11, 2021, Tulsa, Arizona, and then it has links to news articles. And so for me, again, to the point, it's like, to your point, it's convenient, but at the same time, like in that convenience, these people are being lost in the shuffle, and they're just a face and a name and a number now, or a statistic, and that's it.
Yeah. I'm seeing a common thread among all these stories, and it has to do with guns. and humans. I feel like
I have an agenda. I'm playing. But that really wasn't what it was. But like honestly, for me, it's like I try to theme these now, and initially we were going to talk about something totally different. We weren't even going to cover this stuff, what have you. Then Daunte happened, and then Quentin happened, and it's like I wanted to talk about these things, and it's like, okay, well, what else is going on in the world? You know what I mean? And it happens, and it sucks to say this, but it just so happens that gun violence has become a huge thing yet again this week. And it's sad to say that, and it's unfortunate to say that, because this year we've had less mass shootings we've had in previous years because everybody's under lockdown.
Yeah.
And I think people forgot that gun violence is still a thing. It's just not on a scale that we've seen it recently because people are stuck in their homes.
Yeah. But also, again, leaning on the socialist here. What are the gun in the other countries? I mean, or not the gun laws, but like the shoot rate and stuff.
They're nearly non-existent.
Exactly.
Like you go to a socialized country, there's not very much gun violence. I can't remember from Australia, New Zealand, whatever. I remember there was a mass shooting in the mid '90s, whatever, and I think it was Australia or New Zealand. I could be wrong. And what they did was they bought the guns back, and they toughened the sanctions. They have not had a mass shooting since. You go to Sweden, you go to Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Greenland, all these socialized countries, whatever, they don't, granted, you do find a few knuckleheads out there that do this, whatever, but it's not at such an astonishing rate that we see in the United States, and people want to cry about their Second Amendment rights. I'm like, Second Amendment rights are for those who are responsible enough to carry a gun. A lot of people who aren't responsible are carrying guns. Look at this little kid. This kid's 18 years old. What the fuck he needs a gun for? In Arizona, you have to be 21 to have a gun in the first place.
Right.
And then, people come, the mass shootings are, well, good guy with a gun. I'm like, yeah, but y'all see Parkland? Because that good guy with the gun ran away. And so for me, it's like, honestly, I grew up in the house of guns. My dad has guns. He taught me how to shoot a rifle, all that wonderful stuff, whatever. But I don't see the point of having a gun if you're not either a law enforcement officer or in the military.
Right.
I don't. People can feel some other way about it, whatever. I do think, you're entitled to some rights, whatever. A gun is not a right. It's a privilege.
And I'm not even sure that policemen and law enforcement, or policemen and military should be carrying guns either. At this point,
probably not. They probably could stand to lose their weapons every so often. But
or at least not with more training. Maybe military is okay. They be chilling sometimes, I guess. But law enforcement officers,
like, it's crazy. Like we have such stringencies on getting driver's licenses and getting car insurance, things like that, whatever. But somehow, some way, we can't seem to tighten up our reins when it comes to gun laws.
We can sign up for a $20,000 credit card at 18, but can't.
It makes no sense. Like, make that make sense. Like,
yeah. All the things that we should not be allowed to do, we are allowed to do so soon, so early.
Right. It's a mess. It's a madness. Like, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like I made a point on my channel not to talk about gun-related issues anymore because, again, for me, like, it's emotionally taxing. And it's draining. And I get mad all over again. And I can't afford to keep getting mad all over again when I'm doing these things because, it takes a toll on you.
Mental, emotional health.
And I feel like, to Jeremy's point, he's talking about things being convenient. I get the feeling that a lot of these people put it out the way they do, because they don't want the emotional aspect put out there because they don't want to tax their listeners or their viewers or their readers.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
No.
Good. Let's have a bit of fun. If you could choose to be part of any universe from a book, TV, or movie, which would you choose and why? Which characters would you hang out with? Elise, we'll start with you.
Easy, Steven Universe.
Stephen King?
Steven Universe, that's my shit.
What's that?
Steven, it's the cartoon on Cartoon Network. It's about this kid named Steven who his dad is human and his mom is the gemstone. She's a rose quartz. And so he has powers basically because of his mom. And he is being raised by these other gems. There's pearl, garnet, and amethyst. And they're all trying to free like the gem nation or the gem I don't even, what are they, beings that live in other planets usually, but they're based out of Earth, and then they'll travel through space and dimensions and things to head to the gem worlds and end up on a whole bunch of different adventures. But throughout it, they're like it's so well done. Because they're also like assessing mental and emotional health and awareness and trauma. Like they're teaching kids how to recognize and deal with trauma. And it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful show. I love it. I want to be in it. I don't want to take away from any of the other characters. I would be my own character. I hope that I'm some type of dope ass fusion. Because the gems can fuse and become like a super gem, essentially. And I would hang out with the main characters, Steven Universe, Garnet. Garnet is the gem as far as I'm concerned. And that's my show. I fucks with that so heavy.
Okay. Jeremy, what you got?
I don't know at the moment. I'm still trying to hash it out.
Right. It's crazy because I actually had an idea of my own. I'm like, I want to do this. But I was hearing her talk. I was like, damn. I might have to change my shit up a little bit. Because at first my gut reaction was Harry Potter, because I grew up on that. I've lived that life. I love me some Hermione Granger. Emma Watson's Woman Crush Wednesday. But I'm because I've actually gotten to this new book series called Here There Be Dragons. I don't know if you ever heard that book before. By James Owen. It's, oh my god, it is life-changingly amazing. It's about so pretty much there's caretakers and keepers of these books called the Imaginum Geographica, and they're actually these main characters are actually based off of famous authors from the Inklings. So you'd have J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm totally losing my mind right now. J.R.R. Tolkien. You have fucking Sir James Barrie. You have all these cool people, in this book, and it's pretty dope because they talk about Captain Nemo, and Mondriel, and C.S. Lewis, Charles Williams, H.G. Wells, King Arthur, the Winter King, and Thoth and Noah and Delusion put all into one. It's amazing. It's just amazing. And it takes on this fantasy ride. It gives me Lord of the Rings vibes. With the hint of danger. If Lord of the Rings and Artemis Fowl got together and had a conceptual baby that was fucking brilliant, that'd be it. It's amazing. I just got through the second book, 5 books, whatever. I'm just getting to the second one, and I'm like, oh my god, it would be so cool to be part of the series, because again, Jane Barrie wrote Peter Pan, so Peter Pan's granddaughter is in this book. Peter Pan is in this book. All these fictional creatures and beings that you wouldn't really put together are together. It's almost like Penny Dreadful. I don't know if you ever saw that show or not.
Okay.
Where
I
you have all these different places, people from different things that you wouldn't put together, they're together, and it's amazing. And it's not horrifyingly scary either, like Penny Dreadful is. So there's that.
What's it called again?
It's called, the first book is called Here There Be Dragons.
Here There Be Dragons.
Yes. And if you do it, you have to get the audible version, because the guy does voices so well. I feel like I'm engaged the whole time. It's amazing.
Oh, I have some audible. Oh.
But my second choice definitely would be Harry Potter. I'm not even gonna front. It'd be dope as fuck to be able to summon shit, and people piss me off, stun them a couple times. I would have to fly. I just apparate to point A to point B. fucking get a wand and shit.
That sounds cool. I'll look into that.
Yes, you need to. It's life changing. I forgot who told my sister told me about it. Cause I was telling her about. I'm like, I need a new good book to read, and she's like, Michael, you'll love this book. And she's like, honestly, like the way she talks, it lends itself to hyperbole, even though she's being dead ass serious. So, and so it's like the way she went on. She's like, it is amazing. It is life changing. It is great. You're gonna love it. You're gonna get your life. And I'm like, well, damn, girl. Like, let me tell you, this girl could sell water to a fucking seaman out on a mission. Like, this girl, she would sit there and like she would just get you so engrossed in her gotta in her shit. I'm like, yo, gotta check this out. And so I'm getting the book with her. I'm texting her. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened. Oh my god, this person's this. It was amazing. I loved it.
Wow, that's funny. I wish someone would come speak to me like that. Just because I feel like that's a fun energy to be around.
It's like this girl. She's like, we went to a liquor store together like 3 years ago. And just like same thing. She came in, she sat down, she's like, Michael, this is amazing. This is life changing. It's fabulous, whatever. And it was. And and we finished the drink, whatever. And so we went to the liquor store, what have you. And so she's very social. She's like a social butterfly. She talks to anybody. So she's talking to the guy at the liquor store behind the counter. She's like, it's so smooth and so good. It's so great. There's somebody behind us who was also in the liquor store, whatever. She convinced him to buy a bottle of this by describing it to him. She's like, it's amazing. It's so smooth. It's life-changing. It's fabulous. You're going to love it. I'm like, when she wants you to get something, she'll sell it. That girl will sell it. I'm like, damn, okay. I need some of that in my life because obviously my selling points aren't as strong as hers, but like that's how she is when she's into something. She's heavy into something.
That's dope. That sounds great.
It's good. It's a good time. Jeremy, have you any thoughts yet, or any thoughts? Any life-changing books in your head yet?
Change of life-changing books? No. I would guess I would have to say probably. Oh man, see now I'm kind of stuck for the moment, trying to figure it out again. You know what? I'll take the easy way out. I guess I'd want to be, like stuck in. We'll just say like the DC universe, because there's just something about some of the characters that I really like. As silly as it sounds, I want to hang out with Barry Allen and him being the Flash, because everyone around him also ends up becoming the Flash. So I'm okay with that, and I would just want to know what that is and what those days are like. He's some guy running around really fast, but with all of those things comes he's a CSI investigator. And so, I'm interested. I'm interested in that, how things work. But it's like, what would I have access to make myself better? Yeah, not just these super cool high tech toys. Let's go fight some crime. I'm like, no. I can be a better person by this, or I can improve myself this way. Got a little bit of juice also, so I'll use that as well, and just make myself better. I don't know. I think if that would have to be it. Or I'd want to have super speed.
That's crazy because honestly, I'm thinking about, I'm over Marvel guys. So I'm like,
I used to be a Marvel guy, but that was back in the 90s. But if we're spiraling out into what kind of power would you have? It would either be super speed, but within certain conditions, or it would just have to be able to freely manipulate magnetic energy.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm glad you brought that up. Since all of our people, they have powers in their various inflections, whatever. What superpower would you get if you had a choice?
It's actually, I probably have to say the ability to manipulate magnetic energy, because it's everywhere.
I don't know what the word, but there's a power where you touch things and see what that thing is seeing. That would be the power I would have. I'd want to be able to touch walls or touch abandoned cars on the side of the road and be what the fuck happened?
No, that'd be dope.
Curious about what happens around the world. That's all. I'm just nosy.
I think honestly, because I'd want telekinesis. Like, I think it's you know, watching.
Oh, you wanna pumpkin spice latte to go with that, basic Michael?
You know what? Fuck you, Romy. Look, no, because like honestly, like because telekinesis has a lot of offshoots. It could be pyrokinesis. It could be aqua. You know, it could be all these different.
No. But that's just it. Telekinesis is just telekinesis. You just move shit.
No.
Pyrokinesis is moving fire.
Like it's
Hydrokinesis is moving water.
yeah, but that's not the point. The point is psychokinesis, telekinesis, whatever you call it, whatever.
See, that's different too. Psychokinesis is different to telekinesis.
Fine, psychokinesis. I want to be able to move shit, whatever, at will. Whether it be ice, whether it be water, whether it be people. You know, I want to be able to levitate and shit.
Just become the Avatar.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Jeremy, did you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I love that show.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
It.
I still watch it.
That would also be a show that I would love to immerse myself in.
That'd be dope. Oh my god. What element would you? Which village? What tribe would you be?
You know what? I've thought about this long and hard. It's very, very hard to decide, and I don't want to go with it. Okay, so if I'm going based on like having the most power or having a power that makes the most sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be Earth. But if I'm going based off of a power or like a tribe that I think is dope as fuck, it would have to be the water. I would be a waterbender.
I think I'd be a waterbender.
Or
like,
an airbender, actually, between those two.
Nothing against airbenders, but like honestly, like it's different in Korra because Korra, you know, they got the airbenders, they was the shits. And the Avatar, yeah. I wasn't feeling it. I'm like, it's just too passive for me.
The air.
Yeah, like Aang, you know, like maybe it was just because Aang was bitch made like that. I didn't particularly enjoy the fact that he was like, oh well, I'm non-violent. I'm like, dude, you're the Avatar. You gotta suck up and deal with it. And it's like the whole, I appreciate the fact that they're laid back, but I'm like, I also want to see some assertiveness in your power, and I just didn't see that with Aang.
I loved it. Aang is my favorite character of the between him and Korra and every other character.
Oh, Korra? Oh.
Oh, don't bring up Korra. Please don't bring up Korra.
Oh, what that?
Korra, ew.
This one and our brother Alex. Oh my god, like.
I'm trying to distinguish. Is that like a good?
No, oh no, honey. Oh no.
I was not a fan of Korra.
Like the art was great.
Yeah,
I could get down on some of the story beats. Mm-hmm. But Korra, she was just getting, and it wasn't until Michael brought it up to me, and I noticed it, and I was like, she was just getting her ass handed to her. So it's like, are you gonna do something? Like, how do you want to be ripped and already kind of like a semi-proficient Avatar with most of the elements, and you're getting like handed every other day? What are you doing with your life?
Yeah, I don't like the way that I don't like her as a character for the most part. Towards the end, she was much better, but like at the beginning, I could not stand her. Like, I was literally just watching off the strength of Aang. I was like, something's got to give.
Like honestly, I feel like.
Oh no! Like towards the end, like for the beginning, I was like, Korra's got something. Okay. Oh, it's like, okay, well, you know, she got beat pretty bad. She got some stuff going on. Okay. But I'm like, oh, come on now. That's like, no, she got to go. Like, the show needs to wrap it up.
That's crazy.
She had no chill for me, and that's what was bothering me. I loved Aang's, like, no violence, although it was weird because I'm like, but you guys are killing people left and right without, I mean, you're not directly killing them at your hands, but you guys are destroying, the ship is sinking, you know, or the building is falling. Like, you're
like, for me, like, honestly,
I wasn't
I liked Korra, the series, like, the last 2 or 3 seasons. I just didn't like her character. Like, to your point, like, I just found it, like, I'm like, to be as arrogant as you are, bitch, you get your ass beat a lot. Like, a lot. Right. I'm like, does nowhere do you get humbled in this process? Because I'm like, because if I wasn't talking all that good shit, I kept getting my ass whooped. I'm like, yo, you might want to calm that shit down a little bit and stop being so damn headstrong. But I love the twins in that series, like Eska and Deska. Oh my god, like.
Also, I think I learned early, or I heard, my friend had told me that I guess Korra becomes gay with homegirl. I can't remember her name.
Homegirl. Asami.
Yeah, I watched the rest of the series off the strength of that too because gay. But and then I was like, what the fuck? When I got to the end, they're not gay. That's not like explicitly gay. What is everyone getting hyped up about? Like, why are we doing this?
See, like, me and my brother, Alex, were talking about that when this first came out, whatever. He's like, oh, Michael, they're gay. And I'm like, all they did was fucking hold hands. Like, that's not gay to me. He's like, no, Michael, they're gay. And I'm like, can they be bisexual? Because, like, I didn't sense any romantic tension between them. I wasn't getting, like, the feeling like, yo, I want to smash that Hello Kitty. Like, I didn't get none of that from either one of them. So I'm like...
Right. Hello Kitty, though. What? But yeah,
Colin's about the water big. That starfish.
Oh my god. But
I hate you. Oh my god.
Oh my god. But yeah, like, you know, if I could choose a tribe to go back to the original point, like, I would totally be a waterbender. I'm born in the winter, and in the original series, Sokka was my favorite. Like, I found, yeah, like,
mine was Toph, Iroh, and Zuko.
I loved Uncle Iroh. I thought it was excellently written.
Yeah. I think that the characters that I liked the most overall were probably, what you just said his name and suddenly it's gone.
Iroh,
yes. Uncle Iroh, Toph, and Aang is my guy. He's my number one in the... I don't care how basic that makes me, whatever. Aang is my dude.
Like, well, for me, like, when it comes to Sokka, like, he's so irreverent. And it's, you know, he's a non-bender, but, you know, he proves his mettle, he proves his word. So I thought it was interesting.
He does.
And he got all the bitches. Like, he got all the girls. And I'm like, I'm not mad at that. Like, honestly, Katara, I just found her to be too whiny. I'm like, girl, like, shut up. Like, oh, you did this.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm dating you. I'm like, oh, what's happening on this show?
And honestly, that's I must say that's one thing I did not like was the romance arc between Katara and Aang, like that will they won't they thing. Like, we kissed at the invasion. I thought we were gonna be together. I'm like, dude, first off, you're 111 years old. Okay, you slow your roll turbo. Second off,
right.
Like, this just seems real forced right now, and this girl's not giving an answer one or the other. All of a sudden, oh, Aang, give me your babies. I'm like, well, bitch, like, time out. Like, where did this come from? Kind of like, you know, Asami and Korra. It's like, okay, are they? I can see it a little bit, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
And then they go full, like Choppy Dog, you never go full retard. Then they went fully into like this love thing, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to see this.
I feel that
at all, especially with children.
Yeah, that was weird to me too. But also, like, Avatar there's debate on whether. I don't know. I guess there's a conversation of where it's kind of like the crossover to anime. It's not technically an anime, but it kind of gets linked into that world. And in anime, like, the way that they make these kids be so grown is disturbing.
Right. Reminds me of Baki the Grappler. Like, motherfucker's like 15 years old, like in like fucking fighting dojos and doing all kinds of weird ass fighting shit. Well, actually, I wouldn't mind being that serious if I knew how to fight like that. But it's just like I did not delight in that aspect of it, whatever. Like, you know, it's one thing at Sokka, you know, Sokka and Suki, you know, they're like, what, 13, 14, 15, whatever the fuck. You know, that's a little different. But, and you're 11, in Katara, you're older, so you're a cougar on top of that. And it's just like, no, it's just too much for me.
Yeah.
And it just seemed forced. Like, it was like they wanted to have an happy ending. It's kind of like, you know, Harry Potter, when Ron and Hermione got together. It's like, what? Why?
Random.
Fucking why? Like, I'm still mad about that. It's been, what, 15 years since the book came out? I'm like, what the fuck, really? Like, Hermione's with fucking Ron, and we get saddled with Harry with that whack-ass Ginny. Get the fuck out of here. Like, get all the way the fuck out of here.
Right. I don't have much to say about Harry Potter. I've only watched, like, the first 3 movies and never read the books. I wasn't allowed to. We're pastors and stuff growing up. That was a bit fast.
My grandma was like that. God rest her soul. I remember, like, well, my mom's mom had passed away, so, you know, well, she was going to pass away, so we went to go visit her in California. And, you know, I was like, what, 11? So, of course, Harry Potter books was still a thing, whatever. And I was reading Prisoner of Azkaban, and I was getting into that shit. I'm like, yo, this is fucking dope. And go to my grandma's house, and she's like, my stepdad's mom's house, my dad's mom's house. And she's like, at the book I was reading, where she's like, oh, no, Michael, you shouldn't be reading that. And I'm like, but it's grandma, it's not real. She's like, oh, but it is real. And I was like, sis. Now, I'm not going to go on my grandma like that because I miss her and, you know, she's dearly departed. You know, she's a good woman. But, she was like, in Israel, people be jumping off with the roofs with the brooms on. I'm like, well, that's their dumbass fault. Like, come on now, like, I know better. And she sat my mom down. Like, she proceeds to lecture my mom as to why I should not read these books, whatever. And so lo and behold, my grandma dies. My mom's mom dies like a week or so after I see her again. So another week later, my grandma's down for the funeral, and mom's like, we have to hide your books. And so my Harry Potter books, my Greek mythology books, all that shit had to go away while she was there at the house that weekend.
That sucks. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry too. But no, like, people took that stuff way too seriously. Even when I went to start working at Disney, because I was like, I want to go to Universal and see the Harry Potter thing. The girl's like, oh no, it's witchcraft. I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of get the premise of it. She's like, it's real, and people take that demons and stuff way too seriously. I'm like, yo, like, if I was possessed by a demon, he would have showed himself by now. So I think we're good. Like,
right.
It's not that deep for me.
I feel that.
But totes, I would totally be down for the Avatar universe.
For sure.
Fuck, I can see myself now just bending water on hoes left and right. That pissed me off. I'm like, you know what, bitch? Water, freeze, gotcha.
Well, I wouldn't freeze, but I'd be bedding some water. You know what I'm saying? Making the waves.
My brother, ladies and gentlemen, my brother.
Love to see it, honestly.
But honestly, I must say that's one thing I liked about the Legend of Korra, though. The metal bending was fucking phenomenal. I fucks with that shit heavy.
Yeah. And see, that was the other thing when I was like, oh, earthbenders can bend metal? I think I'd have to be an earthbender.
Yeah, that didn't change how I felt about it. I'm like, like, it was cool, and don't get me wrong, it came in handy, whatever the fuck, but it's like, you can bend water everywhere. Like, I could become a bloodbender if I wanted to. That was pretty dope to me.
Yeah,
there's some dope stuff.
Right, like,
I'm about to watch that whole series.
For real. Like, I'm starting to think, I'm like, what is water? What does fire offer other than lightning, which isn't terribly exciting? Like, like, fire, airbenders, they don't offer anything exciting either, except, you can suffocate somebody. Oh, no, again, honestly, I think in Legend of Korra, the powers were much better than the original, because they advanced, you can do more with them. You can, the airbender, suffocated the Earth Queen bitch, whatever, she was coming to her. I thought it was pretty, not dope, but I'm like, oh, that's a pretty nice power advancement to have.
Yeah. Sure. I think that, as far as, like, the firebenders go, it's all for that's just the show-off element, I feel like.
I agree.
It's mostly destructive. Like, you can't do anything with it. You're defending yourself because you could destroy everything.
Well, yeah, you got to shred the glass, start over.
Not bad.
Jeremy, which would you be?
It'd probably be a firebender.
That's why I got so defensive, huh?
Yeah, but it is.
I figured as much.
No, that's not there. It is, because my next choice would be a earthbender, like Toph and the boulder.
I love the boulder.
The boulder, yeah. No, I said there it is only because I was like, in my mind when he first asked this question, I was like, one of us is going to be a firebender. And then you said it, and that's why I was like, oh, there it is.
Like, honestly, like, thinking about the boulder, I used to call my sister used to get something, because I would do the voice at her all the time, like, yeah, the boulder says this. And I would call her the pebble. And she, Julie, I love you. And she would get so mad. She'd say, Michael, stop saying that. I'm like, the boulder doesn't feel like I stop saying that. And she's like, Michael, you need to stop. You get on my nerves now. And I'm like, it's kind of the idea. I thought it was great. I liked how they, the pro bending actually took form. Like, honestly, again, like, I feel like the Legend of Korra did a lot of great advancement of Avatar, The Last Airbender. It's just the character fucking sucked. Like,
yeah. You know what else though? I think that the storytelling on Korra was not. It just wasn't up to par with.
It wasn't as tight.
Yeah, because the other part about it is so. And I think I was reading this, and then my friend was telling me this too. Like, when they started creating Avatar, they knew that it was going to be so many seasons and how it was going to end. When they started creating Korra, they only planned on for one season at a time. So, like, Avatar, you spend how many seasons is it? Like
3.
3 seasons. It's slow. You spend all 3 seasons heading towards the end
Showdown. Yeah.
the final showdown. As to where in Korra, like every season is its own like full thing, because they just weren't sure if they would have another season. So it just wasn't told in the same way, and it took away from the storytelling for me. It didn't let everything breathe, because they were trying to pack everything into one season at a time in case this was the last season, so that each season would feel like it was complete. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. They had a lot of production problems, so that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I actually just watched something about like that studio and about that whole thing like 2 weeks ago. Just watched this, like something on it.
Yeah. Okay.
I
They
just,
have to say some things too.
I don't know. Like, I just found it very interesting. Like, I still stand by. I think that Avatar overall was. I don't know, because like honestly I feel like they're different. They're good for different reasons. Like a lot of people shit on Korra because they're comparing it to Avatar. But if Korra came out first, would you feel the same way about Avatar?
If Korra came out,
Well, if Korra came out first. Sorry, go ahead.
if Korra had come out first and that's what I seen, I probably would not have watched.
Oh.
I can agree to that.
That's fair. I don't know, because like honestly, I didn't hate it as much as everybody else hated it. I didn't hate it at all. I thought there was some faux pas here and there, whatever, but I didn't think it was so terrible.
It was only after I watched it that I was like, oh man, I was like, this is not as good as the first one.
Like honestly,
Yeah.
I think when it first came out, like I didn't mind it. When I watched it again, I kept saying she kept getting her ass whooped. I'm like, this is a problem for me now.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it was terrible at all. Like, I say that. I don't think that it was terrible. I just think that it was so okay that I wouldn't have been moved to watch Avatar.
Right. That's fair. Like, and I'm still salty about how Mako and her to get together. Like, that was what I was hoping for. Like, I still think they just fucking like, and I understand like they have a comic series now, and Korra becomes like a full-fledged lesbian. Good for her. But it just like, to me, it's just like I just did not like the ending. It was not satisfactory to me at all. And I think they try a little too hard to be. You know what I mean? Like when they try hard to be like inclusive and shit, it just didn't fit.
Yeah.
I wasn't here for it.
I agree.
Huh?
I just said I agree.
Korra was okay. Last Airbender was good. No more live action stuff.
Oh my god.
And,
Oh my god, that live action movie, I was pissed to high heaven.
It was terrible.
Like, they say, watch your blood pressure. That shit spiked my blood pressure at least 10 points. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? That little boy, Ong, who the fuck is Ong, bitch? Okay, like, we spent fucking 3 years, Aang, Ong. Really, sis? And then fucking Jasper from fucking Twilight as Sokka. Get the fuck out of here. Like, throw that shit away. Don't you ever bring shit up again. Like, that shit has pissed me off to like the highest level of festivity. I'm like, I was mad because I was gassed for this shit. I was telling my sister Angel, I'm like, Angel, they got an Avatar movie. I can't wait to see it. Blah blah blah. I got mad excited. And then she comes out. I'm like, you know what? First of all, it was on bootleg, so I was kind of glad it was on bootleg. So if I had to pay for that, all hell.
I paid for it. Was not happy.
I watched it on Netflix.
Oof, that's rough.
I was like, what a twist. It's not good. Still.
Well, it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. M. Night Shyamalan's movies are usually pretty trash. Like, he has like a hit or here and there, but like for the most part, they're pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the people that created Avatar signed off on that.
Right, they just did way too much. Like, way too much. Don't ever do that again. Like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, that was awful. Like, I feel like I had to take a shower just thinking about that awful movie. I was deeply in my feelings about that. Like, honestly, like for me, I'm one of those people. Like, we have source material. You stick to the source material. Which is why I don't like the Harry Potter movies.
I never read the books, but I enjoyed the movies.
Yeah, see, a lot of people.
Like, oh, these are really well done.
See, a lot of people who enjoy the movies haven't read the books, and I've done both, and I was not a fan of the movies. Like the first two were close to the book. I enjoyed those. The fifth one was close-ish to the book. I enjoyed that one. The other ones with the rom-com shit in the sixth movie, while I was trying to be all dark and shit, and the fourth movie, I don't know what the fuck that was. That was a monstrosity before the Lord, and it should be abolished to the pits of hell and never seen again. That was just horrible. Especially compared to the book, it was bounce that ass trash. I cannot even describe to you how much I wanted to take my TV and throw out the fucking window when I saw the movie. It was offensive. And then the last two, whatever, I'm like, shit, bro. Like, you had 2 movies to get the book right, and you still fucked it up? How's that possible? Kind of like Twilight. Where'd they do that at? How do you fuck up the books that damn badly? Especially Twilight. The books aren't even all that good and complex. How do you fuck that shit up?
They always fuck up the movies, the book to movie things.
That was Tears Mother If I Went Back.
I feel like maybe they should just stop doing that.
I think so. No, because like Lord of the Rings is well done. Like, you know, they.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. That one is well done.
They cut out a lot of things, whatever, but they needed to cut some of the shit out because honestly, that shit was way too fucking intricate. But it's like, ugh. I think that's the only movie series I can think of that actually stayed to the source material. Artemis Fowl went fucking totally left, and I'm like, watched that on Disney Plus. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Why is Judi Dench in a man's role? Like, why do they have all this extra ass shit that's not even necessary? It was just like, I'm like, I can't with this shit. I cannot. Stop adapting. Make it a miniseries. You probably get it right better that way.